halted the use of the jab due to reports of blood clotting. The Food and Drug Administration and the Centers for Disease Control have urged countries to stop the use of the vaccine while its safety is being examined. Reports indicated that one out of the recipients were between the ages of 18 and 48 has died and one hospitalized in critical condition. Although many countries have raised concern over the safety of the vaccines, both Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca developed their vaccine using adenovirus vector, modified viruses engineered to carry coronavirus genes into human cells. Johnson & Johnson said in a statement that it's working closely with health authorities and medical experts to investigate the issue, as a result of which the vaccine rollout in Europe has been delayed. Nearly 7 million people in the United States have received the Johnson & Johnson shot so far, and roughly 9 million more doses have been shipped out to the states, according to data from Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Johnson & Johnson Company had planned to enroll about 60,000 people in several countries, making it the largest effort to test a COVID-19 vaccine. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am DCC.
Begin to observe the month of fasting, dozens of vendors in the capital city of Banjul have shifted their engagements towards food, a sector that earns more income among the options. The month of Ramadan presents a host of events such as iftar, the meal of the start of fasting, and that of the start and end of during the Ramadan. Meanwhile, traditional dishes are often highlighted, including desserts, particularly those made only during Ramadan. More in this report.
The demand for basic food commodities such as rice, sugar and vegetables is regular in the highest demand during the month of fasting, making the market lucrative on daily sales. Ajiramatulai Gay had been in the sale of fashion and fabric in the Albert Market in Banjul until the sighting of the new crescent for the month of Ramadan. She told iAfrica TV that the booming nature of food products had been the motivating factors for the shift in her concentration. Water, juice, and milk are usually the beverages of choice, but locally produced herbs are always of high demand.
People are not buying what we are selling because of Ramadan. In this period, people only focus on buying food commodities. That is why during the month of Ramadan, we change from selling non-food products to basic food commodities. We sell dates, local tea, and other related items because selling these commodities will help you earn something to home. But if you stick to only what you are selling, you will not have anything.
For vendors like Ramatulai, the old business will wait as long as the daily income from the sales of food is providing for the urgent needs of the family.
Right now, every food product I have is selling. Today, I have sold almost 2 pounds of local tea, and this will help me take more profit. In order for our non-food products to sell, we have to wait until the end of Ramadan.
Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, observed by Muslims worldwide as one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Fasting from sunrise to sunset, which is obligatory for all adult Muslims, will last for 29 to 30 days from the sighting of the crescent moon. During the period, hikes in the price of basic commodities is usually caused by business in the search for more profit at the expense of the poor. Khadijatu Seika, iAfrica News.
Iran's government spokesperson says Tehran will retaliate to the explosion which gripped the Natanz nuclear site on Sunday. Ali Rabi, who was speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, blamed the Israel government for the attack, which he says was done to undermine the nuclear agreement. More in this report.
Last week Tuesday, the JCPOA parties reached agreement with Iran in Vienna to revive talks on its nuclear program. President Hassan Rouhani praised the agreement as a victory for Iran. 5 days later, Iran was struck with a heavy explosion at its nuclear site in Natanz. This Tuesday, Ali Rabi, Iranian government spokesperson, blames the attack on Israeli terrorists and says Tehran will strike back at the appropriate time.
در دولت تصمیم گرفته شد که در بازسازی سانتریفیوژهای آسیب دیده
It was decided in the government to use the developed technologies and newer generations of the centrifuge to rebuild the damaged ones. It is completely clear for us that the root of this terrorist action is the anger of the Zionist enemies against the JCPOA members for the revival of the agreement in recent weeks. And its ultimate goal was to prevent the continuation of this constructive diplomatic procedure. Of course, we are committed to retaliate at all levels in the proper time and with the proper intensity. Mr. Rabi says this attack should be condemned by all JCPOA members and the US, as this act was done to cripple the already existing diplomatic relations. We expect all JCPOA parties and also the US government that considered itself pro-democracy to condemn this attack and show their commitment in declaring acts of sabotage and terrorism in conflict with the current diplomatic processes. Rabi also dilates on Russia Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov signing an intergovernmental agreement with his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javad Zarif on the establishment of information and cultural centers. He says both Russia and Iran are victims of the illegal and unilateral sanctions of the US and have a common agenda to counter such actions. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Omar Ahmadou Toure.
The price of data in South Africa has declined despite the growing demand during the COVID-19 global pandemic, as many people continue to work from home. Due to the growing local demand, the country's two biggest mobile operators were left with no choice but to cut the cost of their data bundles. More of that in this report.
In South Africa, many office-bound workers continue to work from home, forcing businesses to keep their employees connected to ensure that business objectives are met.
Mobile connectivity is crucial, not just to keeping the economy in general going, but to allow businesses to keep operating. Because when you have remote working, it's not only a case of setting up Wi-Fi at homes, for example, but also enabling people to be able to work from anywhere. And that means mobile data becomes the foundation of communication and of collaboration.
I think both fixed and mobile have been crucially important over the last year during the lockdowns. And I was actually thinking back the other day, imagine having to go through this COVID-19 lockdown now, if this happened 10 years ago when all we had to connect with was maybe a flaky 3G network and ADSL. Luckily, there's been huge investment by the private sector in the last 5 years or so, particularly into fibre to the home infrastructure.
While everyone understands the need to provide bandwidth for the businesses to function, have mobile network operators met that increased demand?
I think the fact that ICASA, the communications regulator, made temporary emergency spectrum available to the operators pretty soon after the lockdown was announced last March, I think that's helped considerably because the operators have been able to use that additional spectrum to cope with the demand on their networks that we've seen.
While operators and businesses have been adjusting to the change in the business environment, the local competition authorities recently instructed the two biggest mobile network operators to cut the cost of their data bundles.
Something the operators don't like to admit is that they are highly profitable businesses, and that means they do have room to maneuver with pricing, and that further means that they can bring down the cost of data, especially for low-income users.
Well, the thing they always talk about is elasticity. That really refers to the ability of them, when they cut their prices, to make up that revenue loss through increased demand. And in many cases, we've seen one-on-one elasticity. So the price gets cut by 50%, and the traffic increases by 50%, meaning the operator has effectively lost nothing.
The current pandemic has provided a business opportunity to mobile network operators because they have to provide an enhanced service to those businesses that are operating remotely.
Spokesperson for the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has expressed fear that the situation in Myanmar is heading towards a full-blown conflict. More than 700 people have been killed by security forces since Myanmar's military grabbed power in a coup in February, according to a report. Fatmata Kasim has the rest of that in this report.
Ravina Shamdasani urged the world to be awake from the deadly mistake of the past in Syria and elsewhere. The Myanmar military's bloody crackdown on the nationwide resistance to its rule saw no sign of easing on Sunday, with a human rights group reporting the death toll of over 700 across the country. Security forces killed 82 people in a single city on Friday, according to the group, the Assistant Association for Political Prisoners, which has been documenting the bloodshed since the military coup in February. The UNHCR spokesperson noted that the military is seemingly intensifying its pitiless policy of violence against the people of Myanmar.
We have witnessed yet another weekend of coordinated bloodshed in many parts of the country, including the reported mass killing of at least 82 people in Bago between Friday and Saturday. The military seems intent on intensifying its pitiless policy of violence against the people of Myanmar, using military-grade and indiscriminate weaponry.
According to reports, soldiers used machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades to attack an organized group of protesters who had set up barricades to defend part of that city, Bago. Samdashani noted that everything in Myanmar started like the case in Syria and other nations, with the failure of the international community to respond to the crisis.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights at the time warned in 2011 that the failure of the international community to respond with united resolve could be disastrous for Syria and beyond. The past 10 years have shown just how horrific the consequences have been for millions of civilians. And mortar fire in Bago, in the south of the country. The High Commissioner fears that the situation in Myanmar is heading towards a full-blown conflict. States must not allow the deadly mistakes of the past in Syria and elsewhere to be repeated.
She stressed the need to cut off the supply of arms and finances to the military leadership that aid its commission of serious human rights violations.
The High Commissioner has called on the Myanmar military and neighboring states to facilitate humanitarian access to populations in need. She has urged neighboring states to give temporary protection to people fleeing the violence and to refrain from returning Myanmar migrants at this time. This is in accordance with the principle of non-refoulement. Statements of condemnation and limited targeted sanctions are clearly not enough. States with influence need to urgently apply concerted pressure on the military in Myanmar to halt the commission of grave human rights violations and possible crimes against humanity against the people. The High Commissioner, Michelle Bachelet, has stressed the need to cut off the supply of arms and finances to the military leadership that aid in its commission of serious human rights violations.
The High Commissioner made particular references to the report of the UN fact-finding mission on Myanmar, which contains recommendations for impactful action in relation to the military. Meanwhile, the country's economic, education, and health infrastructure have been brought to a brink of collapse, leaving millions of Myanmar people without basic service and food security. Thousands of international migrants have left urban centers for their home communities, which once relied on their income. COVID-19 measures have effectively been brought to a standstill. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kassim.
Well, that report by Fatoumata Kassim will take us to a quick break, and we'll be right back with the rest of the news. Stay with us.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back, and still on the world today. It is barely a month since the shortage in cement hit the Gambia, dictating to some extent the hike in the cost of construction in general. While buyers are shocked by the unstable wake of the market price, cement vendors are concerned over the issue aside that affects their daily income. Amanda reports.
Many construction works have stopped on a larger scale as a result of the shortage in cement in the country. The market uncertainties is considered one of the enemies of infrastructural development, with small-scale businesses being greatly affected. Mr. Modulamin, a construction specialist, cried of the pain generated by the shortage in cement in national depots. The price fluctuation, in his view, is very unpredictable, a case for which he called on the government to deal with on the drawing board.
The work is not progressing right now. A bag of cement is so expensive. In buying it, you can go right now and they charge you $300. You go tomorrow and they charge you $325, sometimes up to $400. This building you are seeing, we stopped the construction for nearly 2 weeks because of the shortage in cement. We sometimes go out and do other jobs to have money. When we get it, we use that and buy 2 bags of cement. When those 2 bags are finished, we stop the work until we get money again. The price of cement is very high compared to what they used to sell it before. To be honest, we are really tired. We are urging the government to take action on this issue so as to ease our burdens.
The situation is the least favorable in the story of Alaji Toure, a cement vendor who hinted on the challenges with the foreign exchange industry.
Both the masons and us, the sellers, are all facing the same difficulties right now, because buying it and to resell it is not easy. In that case, selling it for a price lesser than what you buy it for won't be an easy thing. We normally get cements in the Gambia and also from Senegal, but the rate of CFA right now is unfavorable to buy bags of cement and resell it to our customers. That is why I personally could not go to Senegal and buy cement for 2 weeks now. I was even ready to go and buy the bags, but when I was told about the price, I calculated it and see that it will be a loss when I bring it here and resell it. I decided to cancel it.
As the wholesale prices remain high, retail prices are not expected to return to regular position prior to the month of fasting.
The issue for the scarcity of cement to me is because of the hardship of the generation, and that's everywhere. But if we, the ones buying it and reselling it to the customers, are not getting what we invest in, then the customers will suffer because they won't get cement. I, personally, whatever I am going to sell, I have the intention of gaining something in return. If I am told that the price I will be buying the cement will be more than what I will get when I resell it, then I prefer to sit back and keep my money in my pocket.
Cement being one of the most important construction materials, its shortage will negatively affect the lives of masons and laborers whose daily wages depend on the industry. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amindao.
Now, Ghana's government has benefited from a $3 billion loan from the international debt market to aspect the efforts to revive the country's economy. The government's move to secure another loan has triggered dissenting views among Ghanaians, with some including economists expressing concern over the country's rise in debt. However, business is now returning to normalcy in the West African state as the government eases COVID-19 regulations thanks to the ongoing vaccination program. The details of that in this report.
Business has started picking up for Solomon Bulawa. The demand for stationery has increased as schools and businesses reopen in Ghana after months of shutdown due to the coronavirus pandemic.
The income you expected to have, you are not getting it. Offices were not purchasing, schools were not purchasing. So normally we're even at home, you are not even coming at all.
Like Bulawa, many traders in Ghana are trying to recover from the disruptions caused by COVID-19. The government has secured a $3 billion loan from the international debt market to support economic growth. Ghana's currency, the cedi, depreciated by 4% against the US dollar last year. Analysts say the loan will help shore up the central bank's foreign exchange reserves.
The cedi is not strong when it comes to other exchange in terms of the US dollar. So with $3 billion coming in, obviously in the short to a bit of medium term, we can have a bit of currency stabilization in terms of the cedi. And that is also very key for every business or every economic activity in the country.
Ghana's federal loans have received public backlash, and economists are concerned about the country's rising debt, which is at 76% of GDP. The IMF has projected Ghana's debt to hit 86.6% by 2025.
As it is now, the government is paying debt that was raised, probably not during their time, but in the previous administration, and they are paying. Government is a going concern. But the point is, the investment of this money, how are we investing it? Is it always going to be invested in paying recurrent expenditure, or we are investing in productive sectors that in itself will generate revenue for the economy? I think that is where the key link is for us going forward.
The government plans to use the loan to pay off some of its debts, as well as fund infrastructure developments, including building of roads and hospitals.
Ghana aims to borrow a total of $5 billion from the international debt markets this year. The government says the $3 billion loan acquired so far shows that investors are confident in the Ghanaian economy.
Aside from pumping the economy with the $3 billion loan, the government has also introduced new taxes this year to increase internal revenue generation. But some small traders like Solomon Bulawa say the taxes are making life more difficult in the short term.
Things are really going to be a little bit tough. So if government does not really step out with its import duty, we are really going to have a serious crisis on our head.
Ghana is targeting a GDP growth of 5% this year. The government says it expects a rapid economic recovery as it further eases restrictions with the rollout of COVID-19 vaccination. And as his business expands, Solomon Bulawa hopes to restock more stationery in his shop.
Well, that report will bring us to the end of the World Today newscast. I am Mariama Champ. Thanks for watching and bye for now.